What's up everyone, it's your FPL Thinking Cap Benji, and I'm back with another episode of Best FPL Captain. Last game week we had Mo Salah in at number 1 and he did not disappoint. Who are we backing this time out? Let's find out. Thinking Cap activated. Okay guys, so last week we had a perfect rankings order. In third we had Son, who blanked against Ipswich. Haaland scored once, but with a yellow card only managed 5 points, and Salah was the best captain. I am buzzing with 4 green ticks on the rankings this week, but we've got another 4 premiums to rank ahead of game week 12. Haaland's got a home fixture against Tottenham, who could be missing Van de Ven and Romero this Saturday. Salah is the only Sunday option, but Southampton away is a great fixture, and Salah's not the only one facing a promoted team. Palmer's travelling away to Leicester. That game is the early kickoff, and we've got Isak back on the shortlist. He'll play West Ham at home on Monday night. Let's take a look at the rest and recovery stats as well as expected minutes. Only Haaland and Isak played for their nations during the break. Haaland started both Norway games, and he's walked out of those 2 games with 5 goal involvements, so definitely a little uptick in his personal form. Isak also started twice, but both strikers will only get 6 days of rest before their next fixture. I'm not expecting this to negatively impact either player's game week 12 minutes, which is why both are predicted to play 80 plus. Salah and Palmer didn't feature for their countries. Now this could suggest that, they're more fresh for their next fixture, but 1 extra week of recovery isn't something that has to show itself now. It's something that we're likely to see benefit a Salah in 4 to 5 weeks time when the schedule is more congested. With no European fixture next week, Palmer does come out on top. He's got the second highest X minutes, and he's had the second most recovery time. Salah has the lowest minutes projections, only 79 projected, and that's because Liverpool play Madrid next Wednesday, and then after that it's Man City. I seriously doubt Salah gets the full 90 against Southampton, but we know he can do the damage even if he doesn't play the whole game. Next up is the defense analysis, and when we compare the 4 teams, it's clear that both of the promoted sides are the best fixtures to target. Southampton and Leicester have conceded the most goals per game, averaging 1.9 so far. West Ham aren't much better with a 1.7 average, and it's actually Spurs who have the best defensive numbers. They've let in the least amount of goals out of all 4, and they're only conceding 3.3 shots on target per game, which is 1.2 shots less than the second best team in this category. Looking at Spurs' chances conceded does change the picture a little, because most of their chances conceded have come in central areas, and with the doubt around both of the Spurs center backs, I'd say that Spurs fixture is definitely a better fixture for Haaland than the stats suggest. West Ham's defensive numbers are just a tiny bit better than Southampton's and Leicester's. West Ham have conceded 41 chances in central areas. They've only conceded more down their right flank. So I do think it's an appealing fixture for an Isak captain, but with Tottenham's zonal weakness and the injury concerns, I'd say that Spurs is a more targetable fixture at the moment. Southampton and Leicester compete with each other for the worst defense, and I think that I'd just give Southampton a slight edge because they're averaging 1.4 defensive errors per game, which is 0.9 more than Leicester. Russell Martin is forcing this whole build out of the back play style, and the longer he continues in that way, the more errors Southampton will make. Southampton also have 2 major injuries. Ramsdale has fractured his finger, so 34-year-old McCarthy will likely start. Bednarek also pulled out of international duty with an injury. 2 factors which definitely boost Salah's prospects. An interesting thing to point out is that the right-hand flank for Southampton has been the strongest side of their defense this season, only conceding 38 chances down the right. So matchups-wise, Salah isn't a 100% green flag, but overall, I'd say that the promoted fixtures are the most targetable, with the Spurs fixture a close second. Into the historical trends section, where I've collected the return records for the players against their upcoming opponents. Obviously, Palmer has never faced Leicester City in the league, so I've collected Palmer's stats away to promoted teams last season, and I'm pretty impressed from what I've found. Palmer returned in all 3 games away to promoted sides, and in 2 of those matches he held double digits. Haaland has a respectable home record versus Spurs with 3 GA from 2 starts, but he hasn't actually returned a double-digit haul against them at the Etihad. Isak returned 15 points against West Ham at home last season, and he's never blanked when facing them in the league, home or away. I do think that this is one of his most preferred fixtures in the league, which is something that can't be said about Salah against Southampton. Salah has 4 returns in 5 away starts, but he's only produced 10 points or more in 1 of those 5, so his historical bias is weaker than some of the other options this game week. It's time for my kickoff stats, starting with game day player data. Haaland leads the pack, boasting a 1.4 return rate in Saturday home matches, only 1 blank in the last 5 at this kickoff, and Erling ranks first in all 5 data categories. Salah has the second best data set. He's been quite consistent in the last few Sunday away kickoffs, with a points form only a little lower than Haaland's. Palmer ranks third in most categories in his last 5 away starts on Saturday. Palmer has failed to deliver a single double-digit haul, but his return rate sits at 0.9 GA per start, which is a little bit more encouraging. Isak shows little to no signs of preference towards the midweek home matches, but he's only started 4 games, so there's room for improvement. Let's move into the game time comparison now, and Haaland dominates once again. If you've watched my Game Week 11 Best Cap video, you'd be familiar with Haaland's bias towards 5:30 PM away kickoffs, and to no surprise, his home split shows strong explosive potential. He's only started 3 times at this kickoff, but he's returned 2 double-digit hauls in those 3, with one of them being a 21-pointer against Wolves last season. I can say with 100% certainty that the 5:30 PM kickoff is one of Haaland's favorite kickoff times, home or away. Palmer's dataset is similar to Haaland's because he's only started 2 midday kickoffs away from home, and he's returned in both of them. One of those was an 18-pointer against one of last season's promoted teams, Luton Town. So if you're liking the look of a Palmer cap, but maybe you're worried about the early kickoff, I wouldn't be too concerned because his kickoff stats have been encouraging so far. Salah doesn't have the most explosive data set in the 2 PMs away, but I will say that his current kickoff form is excellent. He's returned in 4 out of the last 5 at this kickoff, but overall, Salah's dataset, it doesn't really point to big explosive potential. Isak hasn't shown any signs of preference towards 8 PM home fixtures, and that's similar to his game day stats as well. He's blanked in 3 out of 4 starts at this time, and just overall, I definitely think Haaland has the strongest kickoff bias, with both Palmer and Salah showing some small signs of potential. I'd like to welcome you to a new section on Best Cap, and from now on, the risk assessment will be replaced with my very own EO predictions. If you're not familiar with EO, it stands for Effective Ownership. EO is basically how highly owned a player is at your overall rank tier. So for example, if you're sitting around 500,000 in the world, you'll be able to see how highly owned I'm predicting a Salah to be in that game week, or a Haaland, or Palmer, or Watkins. You get the gist. A player over 100% EO means that the majority of managers around your rank own that player and are captaining that player. So for instance, with Salah, he's the safest captain this game week with the highest projected EO at all rank tiers. This also means you won't gain as much from a Salah cap if he bangs, because a lot of people have him. So basically, high EO players, guys over 100% EO, they can hurt your rank if you don't captain them and if they do well. Low EO players can massively boost your rank if they do much better than the higher EO players. Haaland's projections are much lower than Salah's, but I'm still expecting him to be the second most captained player, followed very closely by Cole Palmer, who I suspect will have bigger EO than most of you are expecting. Isak offers the highest potential for gain with the lowest EO, but that also makes him the most risky captain option this weekend. Now it's time to head into the Game Week 12 captain rankings, but before we get into it, I need you to make sure that you're following at least one of my social accounts before the final deadline, because there's a real chance we get new info. Now that could be from injury updates, could be from leaks, injuries, press conference news, could be anything that we receive later in the week, and that could affect my captaincy rankings. If that does happen, if there are changes, I'll be posting my fully updated rankings on all social platforms before the final deadline. Links to all of my socials are in the video description. If you don't hear anything, then obviously nothing has changed. Now, let's not waste another single second. Let's start with... Wait, you know what? We're going to start with the second position in my rankings. We're going to switch it up a little bit, guys. And that player this week is Mo Salah this week, guys. Yes, Mo Salah is in the second spot. I know, no, I don't want to hear it in the comments. I know he's playing a promoted team. Southampton are crap. Salah has been on fire, but his record versus promoted teams away from home hasn't been that amazing. He's also projected to play the lowest minutes out of all 4 guys this weekend. I still think he can do the damage with those lower minutes, but it does reduce his point ceiling for me. Without the guaranteed 90, there's less explosive potential. And when we looked at his kickoff data, he didn't show any evident clear signs of big explosive potential in the 2 PMs away from home. And Saturday away has been good, but still not his best kickoff time. I still think he's a very good captaincy option, very good. Looks pretty nailed on for one return against Southampton, but only second place for Mo Salah this week. Moving on to the Game Week 12 wildcard captain. For those of you who don't know what the wildcard cap is, it's basically the premium offering high risk, high reward. And this week, there's no one who fits that better than Alexander Isak. I don't really like to look at effective ownership because I believe captaincy should always be based on who you think will score the most points, but very few people are going to captain this guy. His overall ownership is under 20%, and he's playing one of his most preferred fixtures in the league, historically speaking. Again, his kickoff data isn't amazing, but West Ham are a good fixture for him. Their defensive numbers aren't far behind what the promoted sides have put up this season, and watching Isak smash it on a Monday night is a very, very tempting high-risk, high-reward play. But the problem is I need good numbers in all sections of the analysis, and Isak just doesn't have that, so he doesn't get a top 3 spot this time out. Now finally, for my Game Week 12 best captain, it is the Earl of Norway, which puts Cole Palmer in 3rd place. Now before you guys get into the comments, start telling me, oh, you don't even own Haaland, how can you put him number 1 in the rankings, bro? Look, if I owned him this week, I would 100% captain him because I think he's going to score the most points out of all 4. I know there's a lot of you out there who still own Haaland, and thinking cap, we don't involve bias in the ranking process. So even though I don't want Haaland to do well for my own team, I want the best possible captaincy results come the end of the season. And that means putting the guy I think who's going to score the most points, and I do think Haaland is the best captain. He's got strong minutes projections. His historical record versus Spurs is promising. The fixture is great with the central zone weakness and the centre-back injuries. Haaland's also got more explosive potential than any of the others just based off his bias towards the 5:30 p.m. kickoffs. There's very few red flags with the Haaland captain this weekend, which is why he gets the top spot from me. Just touching on Cole Palmer, I think there's good things with the Palmer cap. You know, you're going to get great minutes. The fixture is very good as well, but captaining Palmer on the back of 2 blanks against Maresca's former club Leicester City at the King Power Stadium in an early kickoff, I'm not all that confident in Palmer this week, but I think the options are great, whoever you do have, so pick the one you want to go with. Obviously, I'm on a no Haaland setup, so I've got a real head scratcher with Isak versus Salah, but I'll take the next few days to think on that 50-50. If you enjoyed this one, then hit that like button, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace.